Naima, as a mindset facilitator and a strategic intervention life coach, why is it so hard for people to conquer their fears?
Hi, Danielle. I want to start with this quote from Zig Ziglar. He said, "Fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence of appearing real." So we create the fear in through our thoughts. And I'm not talking here when there is a real fear, a threat in our environment. We're talking about the fear that we create in our mind, the fear that prevent us from moving forward, from going after our dreams, from achieving our goals, from taking that very first step to go after what we want to achieve in life. And all of that is basically manufactured in the mind. And when we are able to catch those thoughts and realize that we are the thinker thinking those thoughts, it's not the other way around. Because many of us believe everything we think. And I love to tell people, don't believe everything you think. These are just thoughts. You got to be able to question the thought. You got to be able to catch that thought when you know it's not something that's helping you move forward. It's not something that's supporting you to achieve what you want. It's hindering your ability. You got to question that. Is it true? Is what I'm thinking right now true? And most of the time, it's not. We make things so big in our mind, and there is really sometimes no reasoning behind it. A lot of people wake up in the morning and have anxiety, and they don't even know where that's coming from. They don't even understand. Like, you ask them and they go, I'm not thinking anything. I'm not thinking anything bad right now. But we are so accustomed to thinking negative thoughts that at some point it just becomes a habit, and the body begins to react to that without us even being realizing what we're doing. So yes, it's important to pay attention to what you're thinking. It's important to catch the thoughts when they first land in the mind and to question them, and when it's not something that's in alignment with what you want to create, to go, no, that's not true, and replace that with an empowering thought.
I like, I like that quote from Zig Ziglar, false evidence appearing real. And yeah, I guess we suffer more in in our imagination than in real life. But I think part of the issue that many people struggle with is, sure, we can challenge our thoughts, and this is something I've been going through lately. We can challenge our thought. We can say, okay, what is real, what's not. It's like I might be the thinker of the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. But the biggest caveat is the feeling part. It's just like trying to convince your body that it doesn't have to be in a flight or fight response. And I think that's what, at least in my case, has held me back. I can think about, even if I think about the worst case scenario, it's not that bad, and yet my body almost prevents me from moving forward because of the biggest fear. What have you seen, either from yourself or from the people you coach, when they face this reality?
So when you have developed a habit of thinking negative thoughts, now the body takes over. And I love the work of Joe Dispenza. He talks a lot about this. It's really amazing when you, even when you catch the thought, the body, there's that delay in response, and the body is still dealing with that. And so, to explain how all of that happens between the thoughts and the feelings and the actions, I want to share with you this concept that I've been trained on during my mindset certification. And that explains exactly where thoughts come from and how we can handle that. So, this concept is basically that your beliefs predict and create your destiny. whatever it is you believe is going to produce and create the results that you have in life. And the reason for this is because there is a function of the human being operating system called the five primary drivers. So this concept starts off with beliefs. Whatever it is you believe is going to produce thoughts that are in perfect alignment with that belief. And then you're going to basically perceive and react to an experience in perfect correlation with the belief that you have about that experience. And then your thoughts create your feelings. They lead to feelings. Gandhi has this beautiful quote. He said, "A man is but a product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes." And the becoming here is the feeling. It's the embodiment of that thought. And then if you look at what happens after feelings, they always lead to some type of action. And sometimes that action is inaction in case of procrastination. But the quality of the feelings that you have dictates the quality of the actions that you take. And then the actions that you take produce the feelings that produce the results that you have in life. So the feelings that we have, they never start with, just out of the blue, just with feelings. There's always a thought behind it. So you have an angry thought, for example, and then you become angry. Then your body reacts to it, because every time you have a thought, the brain produces specific chemicals, and then it produces those chemicals in the body, and then you experience that thought as a feeling. That's how it usually happens. So when you have a happy thought, for example, you have a happy thought, and then you become happy, and then you feel happy. So there's always, I tell my clients it's easier to pay attention to how you feel than to keep monitoring your thoughts. Just check in with yourself, how you feeling. And however you're feeling, then question the thinking that's behind it. That's how it usually happens.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned Joe Dispenza. Mean, I read it just recently, his book called "Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself," and something was like being kind of transformational for me in a sense that I was able to understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling, how my body became conditioned to feel anxiety, to feel fear, to feel all of these things, and one of the things that I think it happens to a lot of people, it definitely happens to me. It's like I don't catch the thought. It just I start feeling the feeling. So to me, it's like feeling the emotion, and to me, it's like wait, I wasn't thinking of anything. Just as you said, it's like well, we cannot keep track of the 70, 80,000 thoughts we have daily. We just can't. So one of the things that I sort of struggle with and becoming slightly better at it is like how long do I stay in that state, whether it's anxiety, whether it's fear, whether it's hopelessness or helplessness, right? Because once your body falls into the state, how do you regulate your nervous system? And I know everyone has a different techniques, every coach, every person, but I always like to try new things and then provide with people with other techniques. In your case, how do you, once you are in the state of fight or flight, how can you regulate your nervous system so it goes back to baseline and then you can operate better?
So the number one thing is focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. Whatever you're focusing on, that's what you're feeding. And that's the reason why you're feeling the way you're feeling. It's because whether you're conscious of it or not, you're focusing on something. If you're not feeling good, you're focusing on something that's not supporting you, that's not helping you. So you change your focus, even if you can't sometimes figure it out. Like we just said, the body becomes conditioned with those emotions. So sometimes you can't even figure it out. You're just having a panic attack out of nowhere. And you're like, well, I'm not thinking anything. Okay, well, that's because your body's been going through those same emotions over and over and over that it just became addicted to that because every time you're feeling something, the brain is producing chemicals for you to feel that. And now the body is just doing it on its own. And Dispenza explains this beautifully. So even when that happens, and you don't realize what's going on, just change your focus and be conscious about what you're thinking. And every time that happens to me, I just go, okay, I just switch to gratitude. My number one to go to is gratitude. I just switch to thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for. And I just start counting my blessings one after another. And the more you do that, you slowly just start to feel better and feel better and feel better. And sometimes, you get distracted. You're trying to think about your blessings and something else pops up. And that's okay. You just ignore it, let it go, no judgment, and come back to gratitude or breathing. Breathing is another one, but sometimes people have to really practice before they can focus on their breathing without being interrupted by thoughts. But gratitude is, for me, is the best way to switch focus, like instantly. Just start thinking about what you're grateful for, and you'll find yourself. One thought will help and build that momentum, and all of a sudden your body starts to calm down, and things start to regulate, and you start to feel so much better.
Yeah, I've been almost in a journey lately of see how long it takes me to get out of that state. Used to be even 2, 3, 4 hours where I'm just like, it's not that it's fully gone or just like a full on blast, but it still has some lingering effect and emotions. And now my goal has been, okay, can I lower? Now it's like about an hour, maybe half an hour. So it's always like, how long how long do I stay in this state of mind? And again, I think what you're saying is true. It's a practice. You need to, which I
Absolutely.
think, which I think that's why a lot of people either give up or feel discouraged about it. Because I was one of them saying in the past, okay, people keep telling me to be thankful for what I have, for my blessings, and feel gratitude. I try for the first 5 minutes, 8 minutes, maybe 10. It's like, okay, nothing has changed in my body. I still feel high level of anxiety. I still feel fear. And then you try it for a week. It's like, okay, clearly this is not working. This is just BS. And I'll just have to deal with the thing on my own. It's the fact that you need to practice, 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 and have the patience to actually keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah. Discipline.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is on one side about how we can feel out of nowhere, how we can feel anxiety, fear, hopelessness, you name it. But when it comes to things that we need to do in life, when things that we need to take action, whether it's just entering or leaving a relationship, entering or leaving a job, starting a business or not, we all have fears because of the unknown. Our brain crave certainty. We something that is not familiar to us is very uncomfortable and we're afraid of. How can we reframe our fears and have a better relationship with them so it can help us overcome them?
So you just said a keyword right there, when we're comfortable. So anytime you're trying to do something new, you're pursuing a goal, you're pursuing a dream, that's not something you have it currently in your life. That's going to be outside of your comfort zone. And anytime you're trying to get out of your comfort zone, your brain is going to try to stop you. It's normal because that's what the brain is designed for. Your brain is designed to keep you safe. Your brain is not designed to help you thrive unless you know how to use it. So, being aware of what's going on in that moment and being mindful of what the brain is telling you is key. You have to figure out how to step outside of your comfort zone. And even if just taking that one tiny step, they say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. When you look at the your goal as an end, um, it's scary. you're not going to be able to. It looks so big, it looks like you can never achieve that. But how can I break down that goal into manageable chunks and just start with the smallest task that I can do today? That's how you help yourself move past the fear and help yourself come out of your comfort zone, because that's the only way to grow. There is no growth in comfort. When we are comfortable, there is no growth. You cannot build muscle by laying down on a sofa every single day. You build muscle by working out, by putting pressure on that muscle. And it's the same thing for everything we do. You cannot grow if you're in your comfort zone. Growth and comfort do not coexist. And your brain is going to do everything it can to help you not go past that comfort zone, because your brain is trying to keep you safe. But it's not dangerous to pursue your goals. It's not dangerous to take those steps, but that's how it's going to feel like if I go and try to speak, I'm going to die. No, people do it every day and they survive. It's okay. But doing it, you feel that there is danger. Something bad is going to happen when you're actually, everything in your environment is good. There is nothing to fear but fear itself, like they say. There is nothing to fear but fear itself. And it's really critical at that moment, anytime you're trying to do something, to pay attention to what your brain is telling you, because it's going to prevent you from doing it if you listen to the thoughts, if you don't question the thoughts. A lot of people fear public speaking. Nobody dies from public speaking, but people stand there and they feel like they're going to die. And your brain will prevent you from doing it if you just if you don't push through the fear. You'll stay where you are. People who do things, it's not that they don't have fear. They have fear, but you feel the fear and you do it anyway. That's the only way to grow. You can't let fear prevent you from moving forward. It's going to be there to some level. For some people, it blocks them completely from taking that step. Some people, they take that step, but they have the fear. But that's the beauty of it. You feel the fear, but you do it anyway. Like they say, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah, the emotional pain that somebody can go through when they feel that fear is just uh, saying that it's uncomfortable might be an understatement. I mean, it can be overwhelming. By the
It can
way,
be
I've felt that.
paralyzing.
Yeah,
Yes.
paralyzing. Exactly. I've felt it many times, and it's so frustrating because my rational mind knows the worst case scenario is not even that bad, and yet it's just like your either you have an overstimulated amygdala that just basically your alarms inside your nervous system goes off, your anxiety through the roof, all crazy, and it's just pushing through that pain. So sometimes I wonder, because I've done it in the past with certain things, but with other ones I still cannot break through. And so and everyone has a different level of pain resistant. Everyone has a different thing where something might be more painful to you than to me, or vice versa. But when we face those scenarios where the pain, as you said, is paralyzing, it can be overwhelming. Is there a way that we can make it somewhat easier to deal with, or we just have to suck it up and push through?
Well, so I think that when you decide to do a little bit more of a deeper work into understanding what's happening in that particular area of your life, this is something that I do with my clients, and that's the basis for mindset work, basically. So, in every area of our life, if we have not achieved what we want, it's because if we feel stuck, it's because we have a limiting belief about that particular area of our life, whether that's money is hard to make, or relationships are hard to maintain, or whatever the case may be. So in those instances, it's always helpful to figure out what that limiting belief is. And once you figure it out, there's a process that I use in my coaching. It's called the decision matrix. We come up with a new decision that's going to empower you, and then we do the rewiring of the brain. So some people do hypnosis and it helps some people, it doesn't help others. But the rewiring of the brain is you practice your decision matrix, and then you change that belief, that limiting belief that you have. You basically undo the limiting belief that's been installed in your brain, and then you install a new empowering belief. And then, because beliefs basically, they shape our reality. That's the lens we use to interpret reality. If you believe that relationships don't work out, well, you're going to be on a date and you're going to think that, oh, this is not working, because that's the core belief you have about that area of your life. So in those instances, it's really important to figure out, what limiting belief do I have about this area of my life that keeps blocking me, that keeps preventing me from getting from where we are to where I want to be. And then do something about that limiting belief, replace it with an empowering one. Yes, it's important to figure out the thoughts that are behind the feelings, and change them and everything. But if you have a deeply rooted limiting belief, then that's the way to go. You have to figure out what the limiting belief you have, and then change that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because limiting beliefs, at least to me, they're usually stories that are being created when we were in our developing stages. We were not aware of these stories being created. Now, many of us don't see these stories. I mean, many of us don't see these as stories. We see it as part of our reality, right? As you said, it's like our lens, the way that we see the world. So even if, when we have these beliefs or these stories for decades, 20, 30, 40 years, right? And is, how can we become aware that those are stories that we can alter and change rather than a reality? Because if you, I guess we all have still some limiting beliefs, some stories that we haven't become aware that there are stories, and we can change it. And just opening their eyes, and really going down the rabbit hole and finding that moment when the story was created. It's like, okay, I can change this story. And once I discover that story, how can I what can I do to permanently change it?
So you said, how do I know if that's when it's that you feel that's reality? Well, if that's not something that's helping you get what you want, that's not the reality you want to have anyway. If you have a belief that money is hard to make, and therefore you're sabotaging yourself, and you're not making money, or you're not making the amount of money that you want, you don't have the financial freedom that you want to have in your life, well, then that's not a belief that's helping you. That's not the reality that you want to have. You want to create a different reality for yourself. And anytime, if you look at an area of your life and you feel that you're not where you want to be, the reason why you're not there, it's because you have a limiting belief that's preventing you from getting there. So that's what you need to figure out. You need to figure out what it is, and work with someone who will help you, you know, come up with an empowering belief and do the work, so you can do it yourself. I mean, information is abundant right now, and you can figure out how to change that belief. If it's not making you happy, if it's not helping you, then that's not the reality you want to have, period. Even if it looks like it's reality. Yes, you came to that conclusion as a kid in random ways anyway. Many of us developed limiting beliefs when we were little just because we've been through experiences and we didn't know any better. You know, and someone cheats on us and we interpret that as we're not good enough. No, that has nothing to do with me, but at the moment, maybe that's how I felt. And then I started interpreting reality, my life, based on that belief. Or, in the case of when you believe that relationships don't work out because you had a failed experience, now you're going to believe that relationships don't work out. But is that belief helping you? No. You want to meet the person of your dreams and you want to be in a loving relationship, and that's not a belief that you want to have. But you're not going to have that beautiful relationship that you dream of unless you change that belief, because you're going to be with someone and whatever they do, you're going to interpret that as, oh, well, it's not going to work anyway. Look, this person did this or that, she did that, or he did this, he did that, so it's not going to work. Because you have to justify in some way the limiting belief that you have, because that's the reality you've been experiencing up until that moment. So to change that reality, you have to change the belief that you have about that area.
I think that's one of the hardest thing because if you think about it, right, our brain will find evidence of what it believes in, right? If we think that money is hard to get, if we think that relationships are hard to maintain, you see, if we think that we are unworthy or undeserving, all of these stories, right, we are going to find through our life evidence that proves that point. And the more evidence we find, subconsciously, we just see it all over because that's the lens we have. Then we get more and more convinced that that's our reality. And I think that part of the stories that these were created during our childhood come behind every story. There's some truth to it, right? And I think that by focusing on that truth instead of the opposite, like say, for instance, if I feel that is hard to maintain a relationship, some relationships are hard to maintain, some other ones are easier. I can start focusing on the easier one and not on the bad one, as you said. Where our focus goes, our energy follows. And in that case, we go a lot into the self-sabotaging belief we have. In your experience as a coach, what are the most common self-sabotage beliefs that people have, how they become aware of them, and what's the sort of the process of overcoming them or changing them? Do you reframe it? Do you try to just kill it by saying, hey, this is not true? How is it?
So you said something pretty good. You said your brain is going to find evidence of that. So your brain is always finding evidence based on what you believe. It's always finding evidence based on what you believe. Why? Because there is a part of the brain called the reticular activating system that's deciding the RES. It decides what information comes in and what information gets filtered out, because there is so much sensory information around us. We'll go crazy if we try to ingest it all. So what the brain does is it it defines the field of what you see, of what you experience, and it's based on what you believe. Have you ever noticed that when you start looking to buy a specific type of car, all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere? So it's not that these cars are now popping out of nowhere for you and that's why you see them. No, it's because you enrolled your brain to show you evidence of something that's important to you, because you've been thinking about it, you've been talking about it, you've been researching it, and that's why now your brain is showing you evidence of that. And that's the same thing with beliefs. If we believe relationships don't work out, and that's the core belief that we have, our brain is going to show us evidence of that. You're only going to hear someone complaining about their significant other, or you're going to be in a relationship and you're going to pick up on the things that convince you that, see, relationships don't work out. So when you change that, and when you decide, because one of the principles that was just blew my mind during my training is when I realized that beliefs are decisions. And that's why I mentioned the decision matrix that I use in my coaching. This beliefs are decisions. Because for the longest time, I knew I had these limiting beliefs, but I couldn't figure out what to do with them. How do I change my belief? Okay, I knew I have these limiting beliefs, but I couldn't do anything. But the moment I realized that beliefs are decisions, then I was able to change that, because we make decisions every day. Every day you wake up, the moment you wake up, you're making decisions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go make coffee. I'm going to have breakfast. I'm going to make this phone call. So we make decisions all day, every day. So it's easy to make decisions. We know how to make decisions. You're in a relationship. You decide that's not working for you. You break up with the person. You go into a different one. We make decisions all the time. Sometimes we're just not conscious about it. So if I made a decision a long time ago because something happened in my life and I thought, oh, I'm not good enough. Okay, I've been living that I'm not good enough, and my brain has been showing me evidence of that not good enough up until now. So now I know I can make a different decision. I know that I want to make a decision, and I can make a decision that's empowering to me, because I don't want to live the rest of my life thinking that I'm not good enough, right? So all I have to do is make a new decision. And there are a few parts to that. That's a different topic. I don't want to keep going down that road. But we can make new decisions. And once we do that, then your brain will help you and will show you evidence of your new decision. Have you ever noticed then when you make a decision about something, all of a sudden you start feeling like let's say something positive that you think about in your life, like, oh, people are always helping me, or people are good to me. All of a sudden you start having thoughts and memories about people helping you and people being good to you. Why? Because now you have that decision. You've been thinking about it. If you just keep thinking today, oh, people are good to me, people are helping me, you will see evidence of that. And if you don't see it, at least you're going to think thoughts that remind you of instances when people helped you, when, strangers lend a hand of, help to you. So that's how it works. But back to your question about one of the common limiting beliefs that I see, and I see that with whether they're corporate professionals or business owners, um, people believe that there's not enough time. There's not enough time. Everybody is running against the clock all day long. Like, I have so much to do, not enough time to do it. And then what happens? When you have that thought pattern, there is not enough time. When you have that belief, there is not enough time, it leads you to overwhelm. So you start to feel an overwhelm. And overwhelm basically has this unconscious decision that I must get all the stuff done, everything that I plan to do today, I must get it all done in a time that cannot get done in. And if that doesn't happen, then bad things are going to happen, or the consequences are going to be terrible. And that's why we move into overwhelm, because I have to get this done. I have to get this done, when in fact you don't. So all we have to do, and there's something else that a beautiful concept, which is it's called the corresponding nature of life. Life is always corresponding to what we can and cannot do. Whatever you do, life is corresponding to it. Life is supporting us and helping us to achieve what we want. So all we have to do is to believe that and make a decision that, well, I can get done what I can get done today, and I'm going to surrender the rest until tomorrow. Why? Because it wasn't meant to be done today. If I didn't get to it today, it's because it was not meant to be done today. How many times you stress yourself so much to do something and you don't do it, and then you realize that the next day, well, life is still going. Nothing happened. You're still there, you're good, nothing happened. And you stressed yourself for so long thinking, I have to get that done today. I have to get that done today. And then nothing happens when you don't, if you don't get to it. So all that stress was basically for nothing. So we have to figure out what we want to believe about life. Do you want to believe that life is working for you, that life is supporting you, or if life is happening to you? There is a big difference between the two. But the choice is yours because whatever you choose is what you're going to see evidence of in your life. It is just that simple. Whatever you believe is what you're going to see evidence of. You want to believe, I want to believe that life is working for me. Even when those challenges take place, I know there's something good in that challenge. That's what I believe. It doesn't matter what the issue is. Something good is going to come out of it. Napoleon Hill talks about this and he said, with every adversity comes a seed of great benefit. But you have to be mindful enough to look for it. You're not going to see that seed if you're not looking for it, if you're not focused on finding the good in your experience. If all you think is, "Oh my God, why is this happening to me? I don't deserve this. I'm not lucky." If that's your focus, how can you possibly see the good in any situation?
Yes, you said very interesting things there. One of them that really hit home was this that sense of urgency that everything needs to be done like now. That if I don't perform that today, tomorrow, or next week, I'm not gonna make it because we that's our fear. At least that's my fear, especially with the podcast. I feel that I always have to work that every minute, every hour, every day that I'm not spending doing this, I'm reducing my chances of making it. And that is sure, it's a story, it's a belief that we partially want to be wrong about, but we are afraid of being right about. And that creates, as you said, that overwhelm, and it, it brings a lot of stress, and at the end can lead to burnout. I mean, I've experienced burnouts quite a few times because of that. I need to go, I need to go, I need to go, I need to go, and I need to keep going. And it's just, as you said, overwhelming. But another thing that I liked what you said was that in life, everything is a choice. I choose what to do with my life. I choose the way I think. I choose the way I feel. Now, I've become aware of the limiting beliefs or the stories I have in my head. I have a high level of self awareness, so I can see those. Now, I get caught up in the mental masturbation of, oh, I'm aware, I'm doing the work, but in reality, I'm just stuck because that I know what's happening to me. I say, okay, I understand now. I can change, but from thinking to doing is that bridge that most of us don't actually cross. So once you become aware of this, how do you create the habit of changing those beliefs, of making that choice of being disciplined and having the consistency on to have a new behavior, a new way of thinking, so you can finally change, reframe that story or that limiting belief?
You said it. Discipline. That's the word. Discipline. Discipline is so when you want to do something new, you realize what you need to do, and now you need to start building a different habit. It's uncomfortable because you've never done it before. It's uncomfortable. Your brain is going to keep telling you, oh, it's okay. I mean, you're good. It's like when the people tell you it's good to write down your goals and you go, well, I know my goals. I know my goals. I have them in my head. I know. I'm aware of my goals. And it's almost like out of fear that you start procrastinating because if I write them down, am I going to really achieve my goals? What if I don't achieve my goals? Now I'm going to be disappointed. And you start having these stories and these thoughts and you just can't stop. And you go, okay, well, okay, I'll do it tonight. And then tonight comes and you don't do it. Well, I know my goals. I have my goals in my head. It's okay. But discipline is doing what you know, not what you feel, because you don't feel like it. But that has nothing to do with it. You have to discipline yourself. And in order to do that, you have to think about your why. Why do you want this in the first place? You have to come up with a reason, and it has to be strong enough to motivate you to do the things that you don't feel like doing. You know, a lot of people wake up now and take cold showers. Nobody wants to do that, but you know the health benefits of that. And if that's what you believe, then you discipline yourself and you do it regardless. You don't feel like it. Discipline is about commitment and honoring yourself. You want to do something. Are you going to just sit there and let life pass you by? Or are you going to take action and go for what you want? We only live once. I don't want to come to an end of my life and go, I wish I did this and I wish I did that. Because they say at that time, people usually regret the things that they didn't do, not the things that they did. So think about that. And hopefully, when we think about that, I do that sometimes. When I think about the time when it's the end of my life and I'm looking back and I go, oh, well, I didn't allow myself to do this or do that or go after my dream because I wasn't disciplined enough. Those are the things that we will regret. So I'll just get myself together and push myself to do it. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Discipline.
Yes, one thing that you said that really hit hard was when you mentioned about, oh yeah, we have our goals in our head. And about maybe a year ago, almost a year ago, I did the exercise. Okay, I have this all these goals. Let me write them down on a notebook. It was one of the hardest thing from an emotional level. I was like, how is it possible that I can have this on my head when I put on a piece of paper, it is so hard. It's just like because you start believing that holy shit, once I put on a paper, then it becomes more real. That things
Yes.
that I need to accomplish, I didn't even finish that. I just remember I put that off for a while, but it was like I couldn't understand how, because I think it's what you said, it was key. It's like we don't want to be disappointed. It's almost like we don't want to feel like a failure, and putting those goals there put us on the clock. It's like, okay, now it's it's go time. If we don't perform the things, it's on us. It's nobody else's fault. And when it comes to discipline, I've been telling a couple of friends that I've been taking for the last 6 months like a 1 minute cold shower every morning. It's not really for the health benefits because I mean I work out, I run, I do all of this, but mostly to do those very uncomfortable things that I don't want to do. And by the way, to me at least, those cold shower it never gets easier. To me, I hate them
No,
every single
it
morning,
does not.
every e- every single morning. But it's like okay, if I keep, it's a and Andrew Huberman had this podcast with Goggins, and he said that
Mhm,
we have this part of our brain. I think it's called the anterior mesingulate cortex or something like that. That anytime we do something that we don't want to do, that is hard, that
mhm.
we feel scared or uncomfortable, and we do it, we just grow that part of our brain. And I think that was going to help us to have more discipline in life, and that have like a more either willpower or sort of like a stronger mental strength.
Yeah.
So now I like the transition to mindset because you're a mindset coach, and to me, mindset is pretty much everything. It's like what separates the good from the great from the outstanding. It's just like it's absolutely all of it. But when you master your mindset, obviously you can achieve anything you want. How can we develop a powerful mindset?
You develop a powerful mindset by first being mindful, catching your thoughts, and breaking the pattern, the negative thought patterns. That's a start. Building discipline. That's another one. You develop a strong mindset by doing the things that you don't feel like, doing the things that you know, not because you feel like it, because that has nothing to do with it. You develop a mindset by a powerful mindset by adopting beliefs that empower you, not beliefs that hinder you. Be mindful of the stories that you tell yourself. Be mindful of the meaning you give the experiences. Do your best to see the good in every situation, and you train your brain to see the good in every situation. Instead of looking at something as a challenge, I want to look at it as an opportunity. I'm not even going to think of the challenging side of it. I'm only going to focus on the good that's going to come out of this experience. So there's a lot of practices that you can do, and again, it's just one step at a time. Just start small. And to me, the first thing to start with is awareness. How is your inner dialogue? How do you talk to yourself? When you do something that you're not proud of, when you disappoint yourself, how do you talk to yourself after that? I used to be very, very hard on myself. And I realized for a moment that if and one day I was just thinking and I thought, well, if my girlfriend came to me right now with the same disappointment that I felt, would I talk to her the way I talk to myself right now? No, we never do that. We're just so nice to others and encouraging, because that's what's going to help. How is it going to help me if I start, yelling at you and calling you all these names like you're a disappointment and you're this and you're that? It's not going to help you. It's just going to make you feel even worse about yourself. But I said, okay, well, how come I'm doing it for others, but I'm not doing it for myself? And since then, it was a decision that I made right there and then. Whatever happens, okay, I did the best I could. I learned something. It's not perfection, it's progress. That's what I'm going for. Not perfection, progress. And that's how I keep myself going. Nobody's perfect. And there is no such thing as perfection. It's an illusion. So the more we treat ourselves well and we monitor how we talk to ourselves, that also helps in improving, and strengthening our mindset and trusting ourselves. If I stop myself because I didn't do this thing well today, well, then I'm never going to try again. And how is that going to help me? So just be mindful and start building your awareness. I think that's the number one thing to start with, awareness.
That's why life is so hard. It's that fine line in between. Like I'm too hard on myself, and I'm way too soft, too kind, and then I don't do anything because I'm always finding an excuse and to treat myself good. It's like, okay, if I didn't accomplish this, it's okay. You're gonna do it tomorrow. You're gonna do it tomorrow, and then you keep that thing rolling. But if you're too hard, then you might stop. So it's like a very, very fine line, and finding that balance of, okay, I need to be kind to myself, but not too kind. But then also I cannot be too hard on myself. It's just and weak, and that line can get very, very blurry, and it's tough. I definitely agree with that. And as you said, we feel that others are not as strong as we are, and that's why we talk to ourselves in a much um harder with 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 more critics than we should, and then is to some extent it shatters our confidence because
Hmm.
we have this belief that in order for us to outperform or just achieve our thing, we need to really push ourselves hard, and that means also in our internal dialogue.
Yeah, so I want to be hard on myself because I want to push myself to do more and be more and have more, but I don't have to criticize myself in the process. So I can still be kind to myself when I'm talking to myself. That's the kindness I was talking about. But I'm still going to be hard on myself, thinking, no, you can do this. Just go for it. You can do it. You can have this. That's being hard on yourself, but you don't have to berate yourself. You don't have to criticize yourself.
Totally. And I think that most people's frustrations and anxiety come from the overwhelming gap between where we are and where we want to be, right? And many times, as you mentioned, it seems impossible because we can only see no more than the next two steps, and our goal is like, holy crap, how am I gonna get there? And I like to use this metaphor. It's like I'm on a ground level, and my goal is, let's say, on the 20th floor. I have no idea how I'm gonna get there, right? And this distance can be massive, can be overwhelming, and it creates, at least in my case, I've created in the past a feeling of hopelessness. Like, okay, I don't even know how I'm gonna do this. When it comes to that, how can we deal with this?
So, like I said before, you change your focus. You're not focusing on the end goal. You're focusing on just the smallest step you can take right now. When you have a goal, you break it down into small chunks and you go, okay, what can I do? What can I start with? We don't wake up and be a bodybuilder. We don't wake up and be the fastest runner in the world. We don't, that doesn't happen. But it starts, if you want to start running, for example, if you want to run a marathon, you don't just go the first day and run a marathon. You probably just go for a walk around the block. You probably just start, going for a longer walk, and then start jogging for a minute, and then next day maybe do 2 minutes, and then third day maybe do 3 minutes or 5 minutes. You don't just go from zero to 100 overnight. So it's important. But if you focus on running a marathon, then you're going to feel overwhelmed. If that's what you're thinking about, that's what's consuming you, then of course you're going to feel overwhelmed because you can't do it. You're not ready for something like that. But if you just focus on, well, what can I do today? I can go for a short run. I can go for a walk. That's doable. That's easy. That's not scary. I can do that. And then you keep doing that. And the more you do it, the more you progress. And the more you see results, the more you feel more confident in your abilities. And you feel that you're getting closer to your goal and you can actually do this. Like I said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. Just take that first step. That's all we need to do. That first step, and then the next, and then the next. You don't look at going from, I remember, I think there was a woman who walked from California to New York or something like that. And they said, how did you do it? And she said, I just kept taking one step at a time. Just one step. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, I think sometimes, or at least probably in many cases, that step, that small step, is so embarrassingly small that we feel like, how come? Let's say, l- let's talk about the running a marathon, just walking a mile. It's like, man, you it's so insignificant that you feel that one, you sometimes feel embarrassed of yourself because that's the only thing that you can do, and that comes with being more kind to yourself, as, hey, just trust the process, trust this thing. But at the same time, bringing back something that you said in the past is this sense of urgency, and that's why we want to go from 0 to 100 now. And then it's hard for us to take that the next step. We just want to skip a few steps. If, okay, I guess I can take step one, can I jump to step 5 and maybe to step 7? And and it just shortened the distance without doing the process. And we do a lot of things that many times we work on things that have very little impact on our lives. It doesn't produce the results we're looking for instance. So I can do things that I think that I'm working hard on, and I'm expecting some sort of output. But then we don't apply the 80-20 rule. So when working on our mindset, what's that 20% of effort we can work on that will produce 80% of the results?
So they say success is 80% mindset, 20% strategy. That's because it's more about how you look at something and what you believe about that thing than the strategy that you're using. So if you start a business and you think you want to be a millionaire in a month, well, that's not realistic. I mean, it could happen. It could. It's possible.
Yeah, okay.
But most likely, if you just start in, it's going to take you a little bit of time to build something and not make that first million in a month, So, but if you're going to stress yourself out and you go, well, I have to make it happen in a month, then that's going to move you to overwhelm. Maybe that's a drastic example, but that's going to move you to overwhelm. And once you move into overwhelm, you're in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, all of our energy is in survival. That's not the time to create. That's not the time to relax. That's not the time to have ideas. That's not the time to connect to the higher power and figure out what the next steps are. We're in survival. So we have to be really mindful of when we're in the primal state, when we're in the suffering state. Anytime you're in a suffering state, you have to just figure out a way to stop, because right there, you're not helping yourself. You're disconnecting from reality. The moment you're in survival, the moment you're in a suffering state, when you're thinking thoughts like, when you're angry and just exhausted and feeling burnout and overwhelmed and tired and feeling hatred and jealousy, you have to stop and figure out a way to move into a powerful state and feel good, because that's the only time we create. The only time we can have the ideas that will move us and create the coincidences and the synchronicities in our life. So we can meet one person and it will change the course of our life. One person, one opportunity can help you create what you can't create in years. But you cannot have that idea, you cannot create that opportunity, you cannot do any of that if you're not in a good state of being, if you're not feeling good, if you're not in a parasympathetic expression of the nervous system. Because once you're in survival, all of your energy is just trying to help you survive. It's not the time to create. It's not the time to think clearly. It's not the time to work on what you need to do. Your brain is trying to help you survive.
I like that the 20% seems like having the ability to snap out of that survival mode.
Hmm.
Because once you snap out of the survival mode, then you can be you can apply all that energy into things that matter, creating or just working on your goals. And I've heard this a long time ago. It's like a perspective is the stabilizer of the mind. Once you put things in perspective, you can calm yourself down. And yes, it's a process of snapping out of that stress mode and have whether stress, anxiety, all of that. But then I guess that's what leads to 80% of the results. It's like once you're in a better, once you're in a calmer way, once you're either when you feel gratitude, or even if you are a baseline, you're not using all that energy into something that it doesn't benefit you. So I very like that. So Naima, I've been having such a wonderful conversation with you, and I think that I've learned a lot when it comes to mindset. But as a closing question, what is the hardest thing that you have ever done?
Moving to the States.
Mhm.
Yeah, moving from Morocco, 1998. When I moved from Morocco to the States, I think now I look back and I go, "Oh my goodness, that was not easy." But at the time, I didn't think about it. I was so happy because it was the American dream, coming here. But it was hard, not knowing the language, not knowing the rules of the game, not knowing the culture except for what I watched on TV growing up. It was a reality. It was a culture shock when I moved here, and it took me a little bit of time to adjust and to adapt to everything. But like I said, when just the fact of moving, I was excited. But once reality settled, then it was really hard. It was for the first 8 years, I could not get myself out of minimum wage jobs, and I could not change my situation. I felt hopeless, and I felt completely did not trust myself, did not believe in myself. So that was the hardest thing I've done. Yeah.
I love that. You're such an inspiring and insightful person that
Thank you.
I really, really enjoyed the conversation. Truly.
Thank you.
Where can people find you if they want to work with you, or if they want to keep up with your work?
My website, naimaspencer.com, and I usually offer an hour discovery call so people can reach out if they want to discuss something. I'm more than happy to do that. Yeah.
Perfect. Naima, once again, was such a pleasure having a conversation
Thank you
with
so
you.
much.
And I hope that more people find you, because all the life experience, all the insights, plus the knowledge you have can help a lot of people really start moving forward and really achieving their dreams for sure.
Yes, that's the plan. That's really what I'm passionate about. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.